Today we're going to have a discussion on descriptive statistics using Minitab. So right here is my Minitab window that is open for me. And so the first thing I would want to do is to load my data set, and then we'll see how or what we can do to provide a good descriptive statistics. So basically, um, I'm just going to show you how to load in the data, run the results, and what the just give you a brief description of the statistics in there using Minitab. So I'm going to go to my file on the Minitab window. We want to open our dataset. This toolbar here also offers the same functionalities as what I'm going to do in the file. So to the left here, the very first one, you can see it is open. So I can open an existing one, save it here. This is the save button, but you have more here. If you want to create a new project, you want to open a new worksheet at the bottom there, or you want to open a new report, you can actually have a report here. Whilst you are running your output, you are putting what results you want into your report, and after that you can send it over to Microsoft Word to do more of your editing there. So right now I'm just going to open my data set using this here that says open, and this dialog box will open. Now my data is crop yield, as you can see here. So I'm going to open that, and at the bottom here where you have the express spreadsheet like layout, that is where our data is going to be. Now you have this little window popping up. You choose the data set that you want. Probably this is not the way you want to see your data set, so you have the option to make choices or to do whatever you want to do here, defining your data and the type, your variables and the type of data each of them hold. So let's start from the first and start to come down so that we see, understand what each of them is doing in this dialog box. So first one, its first row to import is 1. So in the Excel sheet or the CSV file that you are opening from, where do we start importing the data from? So we can, if your data set, the first few rows inside your Excel, it's not actually the data set but something else, maybe a description of what the data is, you would want to skip that one. So let's say we want to change this one to 5. So you can see in here that from 1 to 4 is grayed out and the fifth one is highlighted. It means my data, the import is going to start from here. Okay, then our data started with the first row in the Excel sheet, so we'll leave it as that. Now the second option here is data has column names. Yes, so you can see the bolded text at the top here. Those are my variable names. Okay, they are my variable names, and they are at the top of my Excel or my CSV file, and I want them to be the names and they are not part of the data set. And so I mean the values, so you don't want to make Minitab believe that they are part of the values. So that is why this is ticked. So if I untick this one, you will see that the bolded text will change to the normal text, and that means that it's going to read it as, let's see the preview right here, and this is how it's going to read in. And your first row is going to be the names itself but not the data itself. So you don't want to do that. We want to say the first row that you see is actually the column names or the variable names and not the values themselves. Next one is to define how the, so automatically Minitab detects from the import the type of file that is used. Because it's CSV, it is assuming that is comma delimited, and so you have the comma there and the text is double quoted. It's in the form of Excel when we open it, so we don't actually see these ones there, but that is the language it understands. So there is a decimal there. What kind of decimals do you want to use? Some are comfortable using the period, that is the full stop, as a decimal indicator, and then others too, they use the comma. So which one do you want, do you prefer? So you choose that from this box here. Use original settings, what your the default settings of your computer. It will just go ahead to use if you leave it there like this. Otherwise, you can choose between the period or the comma, and that will be changed there. So let me move to the comma, and then we see how that is looking like. Now you can see it is not actually looking nice again. So let's see the preview, and it's putting all of them inside here, looking so ugly. So this is not the way we want to read in our data. So just go with the default and you'll be okay with that. Okay. All right. So let's go back to our comma delimited, and then we go on to other options. Now the other one here is, you see numeric at the top. That will tell us the type of data the variable holds, and all these are numbers, and so we're going to go with the numeric. If it is not, you would want to click on those arrows by the numeric corresponding to the variable that you want to change, and you choose either a text or a date time, so that the column Minitab will understand the data type the column has or holds, and be able to help you do your analysis appropriately. All right, so let's see what is inside these options. Now, let me take this a little far here so we can see. So right now you can see that sometimes you have missing values in there, and you indicate that if the value is missing, put something there so that I would know that this one is missing. So maybe you have defined missing values in the data set, say -9. I'll put -9 there, and the text I can just put none or NA. Let me just put none there. So if Minitab is reading this data set and come across any of these, it will understand that -9 is a numeric missing value, and none is a text missing value. And so it will treat them as such. Do not import blank rows. This is very important. Let's say, for example, if drip, sprinkler, and furrow is there, the values are corresponding, and one of them is missing. If I take off this tick here, the checkbox here, if I take it off, then it will mean that if there is a missing value, shift the value to cover, so there won't be space. And at the end, you would see that some of them, sorry, at the end, you're going to see that the number of rows will not be equal, and that will pose a challenge to you when you're doing certain analysis, and you don't want to do that. So right now I'm going to leave all the defaults here as they are, and whether I leave this there or not, it will make a difference because we don't have decent values in our data set. So I will just go with the default and say okay, then my data is imported here. Now let's see descriptive statistics. How do we get our descriptive statistics in this case? We have the data now inside, and so we go to start, and basic statistics will offer us some of the basic analysis that we need. And the first on the list is display descriptive statistics, and that is where we want to go to. Right. Okay. Now you've seen another dialog box with plenty things. So in this left box, white box here, you can see the variable names in there. So no matter the number of variables that you have in your data set, you will see all of them displayed here. If it is more than this box can contain, there will be a scroll bar for you to scroll and see all of them. So fortunately, we have just a few of them, and so we can see all of them at the same time. Now, which of these variables do I want to put inside and find the descriptive statistics on? All of them are numeric, and so I would want all of them inside. So how do I get them? One, you have the option of just putting them one at a time, or you select all of them at once and put them together. So if you Select one of them, you come down, you can see that the select here is not active. Let me take it off. Now you can see it is not active. If I click on it, nothing happens. So I would need to click inside the box where I want the variable to go first before I come back to do the selection. So the first box, the second box at the top here, my top right, it's the variables. Those variables that you want to perform the descriptive statistics on, you would want to put them in this box. So number one, we want to put the drip in there, and so I click on drip and say select, it goes inside. I come back to the sprinkler, go inside, furrow, go inside, and they're all inside. Again, if there are many, sometimes doing this can be boring, and so you would just want to select all of them. Those that you want, you select all of them and just say send them in for me, and they go. Now you have another box that is by variables, and this is optional. Whether you put something in there or not, it will still run. Now, what this one does is that if there was a grouping variable, let's say this is what we have, this is the data that we have, the different aggregation methods, if we had positioned them in different geographic location, we probably would want to see. For example, if you did this in different districts, you would want to see the descriptive statistics by the various districts. And so you put that district variable in the by variables box here. So we don't have any of that, and so we can proceed without it. Now we have statistics here. What kind of statistics do we want to see? We want to click in that box and then that button, and then pick out all the statistics that we want to use. We have the mean, we have the standard error of the mean, we have the standard deviation, the variance coefficient of so you have a lot of statistics in here. So it is up to you to do your selection, which of them you want to include in your descriptive statistics. And so we do that. So let's see. All these we will need them, that we need them up to that point. And so most of them I think we will not be needing them, but I'll just leave them anyway so that we'll see how they come up. Now, non-Mason and n-Mason. So we don't have Mason value, so we wouldn't worry so much about this because this is just going to be the total number of rows in our data set, and this will just be 0, 0. There is no Mason value. And so I won't worry much about this. Percentage cumulative, these ones will come in. If we had categorical values and we want to do the counting and the percentage of appearance, that kind of thing, but then this wouldn't give, it won't make any sense to put this in that kind of table. And so let's leave these ones as is and say okay in this. Let's go to the graphs. In terms of the graphics, what kind of graphics do we want to see? A histogram only, a histogram with normal curve fitted on it? Do we want the individual plots, and do we want a box plot? So I decide to pick all of them so we can see what is in them. But it's up to you to either choose all of them, choose one of them, or it's your choice. So you have the option to choose or not to choose. So we can say okay in this. Right now we are done with this dialog box. So we can say okay and wait for our results to populate. So we can see our result here. I'm going to pull this down a little so we have enough room to see what this is. Now the first table is our descriptive statistics. And we have the mean, standard error of the mean, standard deviation, coefficient of variation, minimum, quartile one, median. So these are the statistics that we choose in the boxes. Okay, so it displays for us. So for each of the irrigation methods, drip, sprinkler, and then furrow, we have their means there. We have their corresponding standard error of the mean and standard deviations and all those things. So let me break here, and then we go through the standard error. The mean is actually the average, and so there is nothing to explain much there. The standard deviation is talking about variability, as much as the standard error, but there are differences. And so I would want us to take a little detour to understand what these are. So standard deviation is a measure that describes how much the values in your dataset deviate from the mean. So to put it in simple terms or layman terms, it tells you about the spread or the dispersion of your data points. So how far away are your data points from the mean? So if you have a small standard deviation, it simply means that your data points are closer to each other. They are closer to the mean. Whereas a large standard deviation indicates that your data points are widely spread out. So the standard deviations, whilst it's talking about the individual data points, the standard error is talking about the sample mean, that is the average. Okay, so when you calculate your average, how much is this sample mean likely to vary from the population mean? Now, we don't know the population mean, and so we are trying to estimate through the sample mean. So the standard error is able to tell us how much variation is there with what you have currently as your sample mean. Now, both of them, when do we need to use them? So there are situations where it is beneficial to report both the standard deviation and the standard error. So the standard deviation would help whoever is reading your paper or whoever is looking at your report to understand the variability within your sample, while the standard error will inform them about the accuracy of your sample mean as an estimate of your population mean. Another one we need to take a look at is our coefficient of variation. Okay, so the coefficient of variation is also a standardized measure of dispersion of a probability distribution or a frequency distribution, and often it is used in descriptive statistics to describe the relative variability of your dataset, allowing you to be able to compare between datasets with different units or means that are widely different from each other. We use it to compare variability across datasets. We use it to assess relative risk, and we can also use the normalized measure, use it as a normalized measure, okay, of dispersion. So these are the situations where you can also use the coefficient of variation. Now, in reporting, if you are reporting your mean, then your standard deviation, standard error should come, because your the standard error of the mean and standard deviation both depend on the mean for their values or their estimates. If you are estimating or if you are reporting using the median, then you would want to go with the interquartile range. So the interquartile range is more like your standard deviation in you when you're using the median. Okay, so the mean goes with standard deviation, standard error, whilst your median will go with your interquartile range. Now we have additional two here. I'll go to the last one. So the additional two statistics there, that is the skewness and then the ketosis. So the skewness is looking at whether your tails, the left tail is longer than the right tail or the right tail is longer than the left tail. So if you look at the graphs here, so can we say that the left side of the tail is more like elongated more than the right side of the graph, or it is symmetrical, it's more like a bell shape? So we do this comparison with respect to um, using the normal distribution curve as a standard for these kind of measures. So the little negative in the skewness will tell us it is a little tilted to the uh, left, that is elongated to the left as compared to the right, and the one with the positive will tell us that it is a little longer in the right side. So with simply looking at or saying the right tail is longer than the left tail, or the left tail is longer than the right tail. Right now, physically, it's not easy to just look at it and tell, but in some cases, it is very obvious. You see that one side of it will go far in terms of the red line more than the um, left side or the right side. Okay, so that is what the skewness is doing. Now, talking about the ketosis, that has to do with this curve you are seeing. Assuming this was the normal curve, the red one you are seeing, it is normally distributed this way. Then you might have one that is peaked. So you see that it will come close to this form. It will come very close. Okay, so in that case, we are talking about is it being peaked as compared to the normal curve, and sometimes it will spread out and the height will not be up to this one, so it will spread out more than you are seeing in the normal distribution. And we, in that case, we talk about it being flatter as compared to the normal curve. So this is what the statistics here is doing, how we can talk about them. Now, if you move from the normal curve and you come the histograms with the normal curve, and you come to the individual plots, if we plotted them individually, this is what we're going to see. And you can see that at some places you have a lot of the values clustering together, and in some the left right side you see that it's a little scattered as compared to the middle part. So most of the data is concentrated around here, in that is the drip irrigation. Now the sprinkler, it's more like uniform, except this last two here that is drifting away. The rest are more like closer. Now the furrow is so obvious. One of them is very far away from the rest, and we can talk about that one as an outlier. But we don't have evidence to show just looking at them. This individual plots, and that is why we have the box plot here that will simply give us a brief summary of whatever I have spoken about. We have the whiskers, more like this box and whisker. So this box here, we have the lower quartile, the lower part of the box, that is the lower quartile. The line in the middle is the median, and the top um, part of the box, that is the the third quartile. Now, this whisker you are seeing indicates the maximum at the top here and indicates the minimum at the bottom here. So you can see we have more statistics in here. The minimum, the first quartile, the median, third quartile, and then the maximum, all of them in one place. Now, it will also help us if you look at the furrow irrigation method, you see there is a star here, asterisk here. So this indicates an outlier. It means that one of the values is very far away from the rest of them, and this affects your if you are using the mean, it will affect your interpretation, because the mean is affected by outliers, and once this one has an outlier, we want to be careful using the mean here to do any interpretation, and so we would rather prefer to use the median. So basically, this is all about descriptive statistics using Minitab. Now, if you want to now send this one to your report, this is what you can do. You click on, this is what I want to send first to. I click on the table, and then I click on this button, and you see a lot of items here. I can send it here right away to Microsoft Word, to PowerPoint. Now I don't have this installed, and so I cannot send to any of these, but I can send it to a report within this one. And so look at the left part, I only have what I have done now, the name appearing there, and so I want to create a report and send this one there. So I click on it and it opens a new report here. So I can rename this one, let's say descriptive statistics. Okay. And then later on send this one. I can add annotations to this one, just write any text that I want to write, or I go back there and then add more of the statistics I want to include. So basically I can now send this one to my Microsoft Word so that I can do further editing, and then do whatever I want to do afterwards. So this is all that we need to understand or need to know about using Minitab to perform descriptive statistics. So thank you. If you have any questions, drop them, and I'll try to answer them. I'll see you again in another video.